We have some breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. The University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas at Austin has formally issued a request to join the SEC starting in July 1st of 2025. That joint letter was sent to SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, which we'll hear his response in just a second. But here's Jay Hartzell and Joseph Harrows, the two university presidents, jointly asking Commissioner Sankey, telling him that both their programs, the university, request invitations for membership to the SEC again July 1st, 2025. In terms of Greg Sankey's response via the SEC, here's what he had to say. It said, in part, while the SEC has not proactively sought new members, we will pursue significant change when there is a clear consensus among our members that such actions will further enrich the experiences of our student athletes and lead to greater academic and athletic achievement across our campuses. Again, they will need 11 out of 14 members to approve any such move, and we know Texas A&M probably one of the three that would say no. All right, Chip Patterson of the Cover 3 podcast joining me now. So, Chip, what more can you tell us, your thoughts here on today's news?
I'm so glad that we got to this place because we were able to really move past the idea that Texas and Oklahoma were going anywhere else other than the SEC. It's crazy. We're here less than a week from when this story first dropped in the middle of SEC media days, and so much has happened. And among that includes reports that other conferences were maybe going to feel out Texas and Oklahoma and say, hey, if you aren't happy in the Big 12, maybe you'll come to the Big 10, maybe you'll come to the ACC. And I never took any of those reports with any kind of value, where I thought that we were going to actually end up in a place where Texas and Oklahoma were going to go anywhere but the SEC. I really thought that that was probably conferences trying to be able to tell their fans, hey, at least we tried. I mean, we all sign up for the Masters lottery every year, but we know we're probably not going to get drawn. But you at least got to tell your friends in your pact for Masters tickets that you tried. And that's what the Big Ten and the ACC did. They said, we've got these two iconic college sports brands. They're clearly not happy in the Big 12, but they were behind schedule compared to where the SEC was. I love that Greg Sankey was very particular in saying that he was not proactive in trying to poach Texas and Oklahoma away from the Big 12, because that would come with all kinds of litigation and lawsuits if that was what this was believed to be. So we've had to go through these very meticulous steps to get to a place where we believed we were going to be less than 1 week ago, Texas and Oklahoma formally applying to join the SEC.
Chip, I know this has probably been brought up before, but this is the first time you and I are talking. Why would Oklahoma and Texas do this? Because generally, the winner of the conference had an easier path to the college football playoff. And yes, there's going to be expansion, but why do this when you were leading a conference like the Big 12 to join a much tougher conference in the SEC?
Two things happened at the same time. And first of all, I don't think it's competitive reasons, and I don't think it's playoff reasons. But the Big 12 had its media rights deal coming up. And that is the date that we have, that July 1, 2025, is after the expiration of the Big 12's current contract. Now, if the Big 12 all splits up and everybody goes and runs somewhere else, we could see Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC before 2025, but the absolute latest that we could see Texas and Oklahoma is 2025. And I think that they did not get favorable responses with the initial conversations and trying to re-up that deal. At the same time, in just the last couple of years, the SEC has renewed its deal, bringing in a lot more financial benefits for all of its members. And so, Texas and Oklahoma was living in a house that needed a lot of repairs, and they were seeing the bills start to stack up. They were seeing the SEC pull away in terms of the amount of money it's able to distribute to each of its member schools. And I just think that Texas and Oklahoma see the future of college sports being with the SEC as the most powerful brand, and the Big 12 was really losing steam fast. They're not trying to get out for college football playoff positioning. They're trying to get out because they think that for the overall health of big-time college athletics, it's going to be played at the SEC in the near future. And they were having less faith that the Big 12 conference that they were in with only 10 teams could have any chance to keep up.
Do we envision the right amount of teams to oppose possible expansion in the SEC?
I don't. I think that right now, all the reporting indicates that within the SEC, those important decision makers who would like to see this move through there doesn't seem to be a lot of concern. You'll remember when the Big Ten was trying to make its decision on whether or not it would hold a season after canceling on August 11th, then trying to get things started again in September of 2020 amid the COVID pandemic. We were doing a lot of school counting. We were counting votes. All of us were whips in Congress, right? Well, I don't hear a lot of vote counting. It sure seems both with public statements from some SEC leadership that we have seen. I know the South Carolina president among them. It sure seems like this thing might be 13-1. And you know how it goes with college sports. They might announce it as 14-0 just to say that it was unanimous. But I haven't gotten the sense that there is any concern as to whether or not the SEC is going to be able to get the votes it needs to be able to admit Texas and Oklahoma. And listen, can we at least put ourselves in the shoes of anyone, like whether you're Missouri, whether you're LSU, whether you're Arkansas? Are there maybe competitive disadvantages? Yes, but we're talking about Texas and Oklahoma, two of the biggest brands in the entire sport. This is going to be something that makes life better when it comes to the bottom line for everybody in the conference.
I'll get back to Oklahoma and Texas in just a minute here, but I want to get to the Big 12 Conference, other conferences hearing this news, the Pac-12, the Big 10, the ACC, maybe the American as well. What do you think other commissioners are starting to think about over the last week or so?
Big 12's got to decide whether it's going to be the hunter or the hunted. I get that from our own Dennis Dodd. I think it was spot on because we also have heard the American Athletic Conference is in a position where they believe they can act as an aggressor. That is a quote aggressor in trying to entertain the possibility of adding some of these leftover Big 12 teams, the 8 teams that are remaining. The Pac-12 is holding its media days right now. New commissioner George Kliavkoff said, we are not actively searching for new members, but we are absolutely willing to listen. This is the way it has to be officially, Tommy, and I try to reiterate this just so that we understand that while back channels exist, officially, it has to be schools reaching out to conferences. Conferences are not allowed to reach out to schools. Again, back channels do exist for reasons to be able to get deals done. But right now, the remaining Big 12 teams, are you going to stick together, commit to each other, and hope that you can expand? Or are you going to start running for the hills, dispersing in different directions, and dissolving the Big 12 as we know it?
It's crazy. 10, 11 years ago, that great conference realignment, we had talks of the Big East with a Boise and San Diego State. It was wild, and we may something similar depending on which conference, to your point, grabs them, although officially, again, programs reaching out to conferences. All right, I got one more before I let you go. And this, again, right now as we think about it, 2025 still a ways away. What do you think the sentiment is going to be in these rival schools when Oklahoma and Texas come to town for not just one more year, but multiple years before they bid adieu?
Nasty. Real nasty, especially for those road games. And that's why the awkwardness that could exist of trying to go through 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, 4 football seasons, knowing that this relationship is going to end. I imagine if we're placing bets that these moves get done so that we don't have to wait until 2025, if for no other reason than everyone is just going to want to move on, but that'll take some financial negotiations. I remember Maryland, an original member of the Atlantic Coast Conference, a founding member there at Sedgefield Country Club back in the 1950s, and when they were going through that last round, after it was already announced that they were going to be off to the Big Ten, and they were fighting in court and they were fighting on the field and on the basketball court, it was a nasty sentiment of someone who is going to be on the way out. And I imagine that it will be that way in a lot of these rivalry games. I mean, what is Bedlam going to look like in 2021 with this news? Who knows? Maybe it's just enough disruption that Oklahoma State might win one.
Chip Patterson with the very latest on the breaking news that both OU and UT have officially sent out to the SEC their formal request there to join the conference. Chip, certainly appreciate it. Again, let's take a look at the joint presidents, Jay Hartzell and Joseph Harrows from both UT and OU, talking about their universities requesting invitations for membership to the Southeastern Conference on July 1st of 2025. Again, that date important because of the broadcast rights for the Big 12 that run through that year and expire that day before. We're going to take a 2-minute break. When we come back, more HQ and more on this news with the SEC and 2 big prominent programs in the Big 12.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.